Hey everybody, welcome back to Haw River Happenings. My name's Cameron. We're glad that you came back for another week to see what we're doing here at the park. This time, I have my friend Weasley here, and Weasley is a corn snake. Weasley got his name because his owner really likes Harry Potter, and her favorite red-headed character is Ronald Weasley. So naturally, Weasley had to get his name from that. Weasley is a reptile, and like all reptiles, he is cold-blooded, which means he can't produce his own body heat. So we stay around 98 degrees. Weasley is going to be dependent on whatever his environment is. So he's staying pretty close to me now. He's warming up on my hands because I'm warmer than he is. Usually he's going to be at the room temperature that he stays in there. Corn snakes are carnivorous, so he is going to be eating mice and things like that. If he was wild, he'd be eating like maybe salamanders, lizards, baby mice, baby birds, things like that. But here we feed him frozen mice. We get them and we thaw them out and then he eats them, so he doesn't really know how to hunt. If he was hunting, he would be using his little tongue. You can notice that he flicks his tongue a lot. Maybe he won't do it for the camera, he's kind of shy, but he flicks his tongue a lot and he's actually sensing for scents out in the air. Whenever he flicks his tongue, he gets those scent particles and he brings them back into his mouth and he touches the roof of his mouth. And he has a Jacobson's organ at the roof of his mouth. And what that does is whenever he touches it to the top, it lets him figure out what smell it is and which direction it is. A snake's tongue is forked, so it has two little pieces, and depending on which side has the scent, that's going to tell the snake which way to go to find its prey. Whenever Weasley starts growing a lot, he's actually going to get too big for his skin. Our skin is really stretchy, it grows with us, but Weasley's skin is not. He's really scaly. So in order for him to get bigger, he has to shed his skin. And what that looks like for him, he gets kind of dull looking and his eyes glass over. He actually has a little scale over his eye, so he doesn't have to blink. But whenever that scale gets ready to shed, it kind of fogs up so he can't see. So we don't really mess with him then because he can't see us, so he's a little bit more scared. But once he gets completely fogged over, his skin will kind of start to flake and he'll crawl around his environment until he can catch a little piece of his skin, maybe at the corner of his lip on like a log or something else. He'll just keep crawling and his skin comes off in one complete little thing. So you can actually keep the snake skins too, and you can keep a record of how big the snake has gotten over the years. Once a snake sheds its skin, it actually shrinks 25%, the skin does. So if you ever find a snake skin outside, just know that snake is actually 25% bigger than that snake skin that you found. This is actually a natural color pattern for these corn snakes. And as you can see, his belly, you can see one of the reasons he gets his name. This little pattern here kind of looks like corn that you get out in the fall. That really different color pattern. It's not the corn that we eat, it's the dried out corn. And it kind of resembles that. But farmers that grew corn also would get these snakes around a whole lot because the mice would get in the corn and try to eat it. So naturally these corn snakes would go where the mice were. So their corn stalks would be full of these little corn snakes, and that's just kind of one of the reasons they got their name. Now Weasley is non-venomous, so that means he's not going to be able to hurt me. Even if he were to bite me, it wouldn't hurt. He doesn't have fangs. He does have a row of teeth, so it might make me bleed a little bit, but it wouldn't actually hurt me. Weasley is very, very calm. We've had him since he was just a little baby snake, so we've been working with him for a long time. So he's used to getting handled. He's used to having kids come up and pet him, so he's really, really docile. I wouldn't want to go out and find a wild snake, of course, and just pick it up and expect him to be calm like Weasley is, because they're wild. They don't know what it's like. They get kind of afraid. All right. Some other cool things about Weasley here is that he came from a reputable snake dealer. So what that means is they raise their snakes ethically. They're going to be breeding them and then selling them, and that's where we got him at. So we didn't just go steal him from the wild. That's very important. You don't want to go to a wild snake and take it and put it in your house, because snakes in the wild have parasites and things like that, and whenever they poop, they move away from their poop because the parasites can build and build and build. But if you actually keep the snake with you in a tank, it can't escape, so those parasites kind of build up, and your wild snake that you caught won't live very long. But since Weasley was captive bred, he's had the good life the whole time, and he doesn't have those parasites, so we can keep him in a tank. It's just a little bit different with him. Alright? One more thing, whenever these are born, they're actually very independent. The mom doesn't raise them, so once they're born, they have their natural instincts, and they just go out into the wild, and they start looking for like insects and little things that they can overpower. Weasley's a constrictor, so that means whatever he finds and wants to eat, if he was wild, he would grab it, he would bite it and hold on to it and wrap around it and squeeze it to death and then eat it head first. And that's just so while he's eating, he doesn't get scratched on the way down while he's eating the whatever object he had, whether it's an insect or a mouse or something like that. This kind of snake lays eggs, and then the eggs hatch. That's called oviparous. There is another kind of snake birth called viviparous, and that's where the eggs are in the mother's body, and the eggs hatch in there, and then the snakes are born. So it's kind of like a hybrid live birth, hybrid egg birth. So it's kind of cool to think about that way. So they're not actually doing live birth, but people do think that it is live birth. And our friend Weasley is going to be the egg-laying type. So Weasley is very, very glad that you all came to look at him and learn a little bit more about him. We hope that if you are afraid of snakes or were afraid of snakes, maybe you've learned a little bit more about them, and hopefully you're just a little bit less afraid of them, and hopefully you'll go out on your own and learn about some snakes yourself. Maybe get online, see what snakes are in your area, and just learn about them, because the more you know about these snakes, the more confident you'll be when you see one, and the less afraid that you'll be, because you'll know that most of them could never hurt you. And they're all out there doing us a good favor by keeping those rodent populations down. And a lot of them stay around our house, especially the black rat snakes that we see all the time. And they're eating those mice and rats that would get in our house. So Weasley just wants to thank you again, and I want to thank you again. And make sure you come in and join us next time on Haw River Happenings so you can see what cool thing we're doing then. Thanks.